4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. I'm Janie Berry and I'm the Director of Governance and the Monitoring Officer here at City of York Council. I'd like to welcome you all to the virtual meeting of the Council's Joint Standards Committee. As this is the first meeting of the municipal year, I would like to take members through the agenda for items 1 and 2. So firstly, item 1, are there any declarations of interest to be declared this afternoon? I'm not seeing any, so thank you for that. Item 2, now seek to appoint a chair for this meeting for the remainder of this municipal year. May I receive nominations for chair of this committee? Councillor Rawlings.
Yeah, could I nominate Councillor Rowley to continue for another municipal year?
Seconded.
Seconded, yep.
Thank you. Is the committee in agreement with the nomination and the second? Yes, I can see a unanimous show of hands. So I'd like to confirm that Councillor Rowley has been appointed as the chair of the Joint Standards Committee for this municipal year. Thank you.
Thank you, Janie, and thank you, members, for your confidence in me. The third item on the agenda is the appointment of the Vice Chair. Again, this is the Vice Chair for the municipal year. For those of the members of the public that are watching, this particular committee is one that has to appoint a chair and vice chair annually, and it's the gift of the members for the chair and the vice chair. It's not done by the ruling party or the executive. And so I'm going to ask if there are any nominations, please, for our vice chair. Councillor Fisher.
Nominate Councillor Stuart Rawlings.
Thank you very much. And do we have a seconder for that? Ooh, yeah, I think Mark's hand went up slightly quicker than Councillor Douglas. And can I ask, are there any other nominations? Okay, so can I just have a show of hands, please, that you're happy for Councillor Rawlings to continue as the Vice Chair? That looks unanimous to me, so thank you for that. And thank you, Councillor Rawlings. I'm assuming that you're happy to continue as the Vice Chair. There's some important pieces of work coming up, and it's good to have a Chair and Vice Chair that are able to work together in the way that we have over the last 12 months. Item number 4 on the agenda is the introduction of Paul Hoey and Natalie Ainscough from Hoey Ainscough Associates Limited. And at this point, I'm going to ask Paul and Natalie if they can just put on their cameras and just give us a brief introduction of who they are and what they're going to do with us. I say the with as an inclusive with, rather than any other interpretation. Paul.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, Paul Hoey and my colleague Natalie Ainscough, a company called Hoey Ainscough Associates Limited, fairly obvious name. Just to explain who we are, in a previous life, up until 2012, we both worked at the Standards Board for England, which, for those of you who are old enough to remember that, and there's probably not many of you, was the national regulator that used to oversee the old national standards framework. When the Standards Board was abolished in 2012, Natalie and I set ourselves up as a private company, in effect, to continue to support councils on code of conduct issues, and we've been doing that ever since. We've worked with around 400 councils now on code of conduct issues since the Localism Act came into effect. Possibly of most relevance to the work that we're doing with York and to the committee today, we were also the local government advisors to the Committee on Standards in Public Life when they carried out their 2019 review into the Localism Act framework. And we were also commissioned by the Local Government Association last year, I think it was maybe 2019, I've lost track of time with COVID, but to help develop a model code of conduct for local government, which I know is on your agenda lately, and we're now working with the Local Government Association in producing supporting guidance. And we've been approached by the City of York Council to help you over the coming months with some implementation of that code of conduct, including member induction, and also looking more generally at your processes for handling complaints, etc., to make sure that you are meeting best practice and that you are, and that it is suitably for purpose for you and indeed for the parish councils across York. So I think that's a brief introduction to us.
Thank you, Paul. And Paul, I'm pleased to say that a loss of a perspective of time is not a symptom of COVID-19, so we're okay there. And Natalie, if you want to just very briefly introduce yourself. I know Paul's done an amicable job there.
Yeah, I think Paul's pretty much covered it. Obviously been working with Paul since, well, back at the Standards Board previously, and then, as he says, since 2012. I don't think I've got anything further to add. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Natalie. And again, just in the interests of clarity, the adoption of the PIR, the Public Interest Report Action Plan by full council at the beginning of May meant that we needed to give serious consideration to our own model code of conduct, and we believe that it was such a serious document that we need valuable help and assistance in putting this together, and notwithstanding the excellent work that our own senior officers have done. And that's why it was agreed that we would take the services of Hoey Ainscough and work with them to ensure that the model code of conduct is fit for purpose moving forward. Councillor Fisher, was that did you indicate you wanted to say something? I saw your pencil rise, and no, that's fine. Thank you very much, Paul and Natalie. Item number 5 on the agenda is a welcome to Councillor Michael Pavlovic. And Michael, for those of you who don't know, is the chair of the Council's Audit and Governance Committee. And we believe that the piece of work that we're about to undertake with the Model Code of Conduct is a piece of work that kind of dovetails both our committee and also the Audit and Governance Committee. Any recommendations that we put forward will go firstly to the Audit and Governance Committee for them to scrutinise. Once they've agreed that, it will then go forward to the Executive. The Executive will then agree that, and then it'll go forward to full council for adoption. So we felt it was very important that we have Michael as the chair of Audit and Governance involved in the work that we do. You may be asking, what about the Vice Chair? Well, I'm pleased to say that Councillor Fisher is the Vice Chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, and so we, by default, we have both the Chair and the Vice Chair of Audit and Governance joining us this afternoon, and I want to give a welcome to Michael and look forward to working with your committee as we move this very important piece of work forward. So moving on to item number 6, which is the minutes. There are 2 sets of minutes to approve. One is the minutes of the Joint Standards Committee that was held on the 31st of March, and you'll have copies there. So I'll just give you a couple of moments just to refresh yourself of those and ask if there are any alterations or corrections or amendments that need to be done on those. Just indicate to me now. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Chair. It was something I just wanted to ask the committee if we'd got the wording right on it's page 4, paragraph 85, which is about the international travel protocol. And we did raise that for expenses on international payment that were in addition, such as meals, etc., that it says in the minutes that details should be provided. And when reading that, I thought, well, you know, that could just be a list and means nothing. And it made me realise I think we should have said evidence of expenditure rather than details of. And I just wondered if others had similar view.
I just look for comment. Everybody wants to comment. I've got a thought on that, but I want to open it up to the committee. Councillor Rawlings, and then Councillor Carr.
You will recall, Chair, that I wasn't at that meeting, so therefore this comes from a secondary, but I did take the opportunity to have a look back on the recording, and I think the point's very valid. I think the discussion was meaningful and head down some kind of receipt stroke documentation behind it. Evidence. Yeah.
Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to agree with Councillor Douglas. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And my comment would have been the same, and I think we've got some nods around there. So I think it was not just the details; it was the evidence of the expenditure. So if we can amend that particular paragraph Thank you, Councillor Douglas, for raising that with us. I had missed that, but thank you. Eagle-eyed as ever. So anything else on the minutes of the 31st of March? Nope. Okay. Can I just have a show of hands that you're happy for me to, at some point in the future, when I get into West Office, to sign those off? Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you very much. And then we do have the minutes of the subcommittee. There were 3 subcommittees on the 15th of April, the 23rd of April, the 29th of April. And so if we can just go through those, just for clarity and transparency again, the first meeting on the 15th of April that I was involved with, Councillor Rawlings was the chair of that particular subcommittee. As we continued on through the meeting, it became apparent that I actually did have an interest in that I should have declared at the beginning of the meeting, and I didn't, and so the protocol was adhered to strictly. The meeting was ended and a new meeting of the subcommittee was then formed, so that's why you have the minutes of the 15th there. And then we've got the subcommittee of the 23rd. So again, I wasn't at that, so if I can have an indication that those minutes are accurate and correct. Councillor Rawlings and then Councillor Douglas.
Chair, I chaired both of those meetings. I'm quite happy that they are a true and accurate account of what took place. I'd be quite happy to agree both of those meetings.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Douglas.
Me too. I was only at the second one, but that is a fair reflection of it.
Okay, so fine. I seem to have the agreement of the committee to sign those off as well in due course. Thank you very much. Item number 8 on the agenda. We have no items of urgent business that have been put forward, and so it brings us on to item number 9 on the agenda, which is public participation. We have 2 participants that wish to speak this evening, and I'm going to invite our first speaker, that is Gwen Swinburne. Gwen, you need no introduction, and you know the rules very, very well. So I'm going to hand over to you for your 3 minutes, if you'd like just to address us. Thank you very much, Gwen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Chair, councillors, the monitoring officer has dismissed my complaint against the leader of this council, against our president. She, under duress, finally, and months later, published 3 more than bizarre options for dismissing my complaint without saying which one she was relying upon. None stood the most minimal test. To pile insult on top of all else, she attempted to tell you, Chair, that the auditors had considered my complaint. Chair, that is another factual untruth. I have evidence. Shockingly, the auditors were told by her yet a 4th reason for dismissing my complaint, the most farcical of all. She told them she dismissed my complaint as it had had no effect on me. Since when has the standards process had such a bar? It doesn't, Chair. We all know it. Chair, as I have said to you, and I say here, the auditors have stated clearly that nothing I sent them had any bearing on their public interest report. All this confirms my complaint has never been considered. You all know that. The independent people know that. She knows that. The auditors know that. As a consequence, Chair, I will submit my standards objection to be now considered for the first time. I will submit it via this committee, as I have no trust or confidence in the monitoring officer. I understand her conflict and discomfort, as she would be a witness in any hearing. That's why you need to make sure it is processed, as I requested before, outside this authority. You, Chair, and this committee cannot allow the monitoring officer to act in this manner. Only you can correct this wrongdoing, whatever she tells you. A complaint cannot be dismissed if it has never been considered, especially if it is about the actions of the leader of the council. Finally, Chair, it appears we have one set of standards applied to the leader and his deputy, quite another for backbenchers and independent members. Something is very wrong here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gwen. Your comments have been noted. Thank you for that.
I'll send them through again.
And our second speaker is Councillor Mark Waters. And again, just in the interest of transparency, Councillor Waters is my ward colleague. And so I'm going to ask Mark if you'd like just to address us. Mark, again, you don't need any introduction to the rules, but please do address us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. It's rather a shame this committee continues to be held behind a Zoom platform, which to me seems rather against the spirit, at least, of government guidance. I've taken the opportunity to address yourselves this afternoon, as it appears to me the workings of this committee and the standards process in York does not seem to have progressed any since 2016, when it was described as a farce by one of today's committee members, when himself subject to a complaints hearing in a parish council role. What else can any observer conclude given recent events? The well-publicised departure of the previous City of York Council Chief Executive, which led to the issue of a truly appalling public interest report, saw two separate standards complaints submitted into the council leader's conduct in chairing a meeting that agreed the financial arrangements of that departure. Serious, documented, evidence-based complaints dismissed by the monitoring officer before ever reaching this committee. Only yesterday, another serious complaint made against an executive member for ill-judged and, given the member's role, potentially prejudicial comments to his ongoing role made on Twitter, dismissed by the monitoring officer with no input by yourselves. Given the recent national furore over other ill-judged comments on social media by another City of York Council member's offensive remarks on the death of a national media figure, it's about time members with social media accounts were made to make them either completely private or take full standards responsibility as council members for their comments. What a contrast, for example, with other cases that miraculously progressed through this farce of a system that involved, for example, completely unprovable allegations based on unwitnessed telephone conversations. As a committee, you need to get a grip of this situation that gets more surreal with every year that passes. Otherwise, you run the risk of more people or councillors responding, as Councillor Fisher did so succinctly in 2016 when he said, "Please tell the Standards Committee to do whatever they wish. I have better things to spend my time on, like serving the residents of Strensall." Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Your comments have been noted. Thank you for your input there. So we're going to move on, but before we do, I have been made aware that I have omitted the minutes of the 29th Joint Standards Sub-Assessment Committee on the 29th. So forgive me, I thought we'd taken them all en masse, and I clearly had missed one out there. Again, I wasn't at that, and Councillor Douglas, you were the chair of that. So is this a true record? Okay, and those that were present, looking at, yeah, that's fine. Good, I'll sign those off as well. Thank you for that. So that brings us to the end of this particular meeting. Sorry, Councillor Fisher.
I think Councillor Chambers has got his hand up. Sorry. I don't know if
Oh, forgive me. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I'm still not used to the yellow hands. Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Chambers, apologies. You're on mute, sir. You're still on mute, sir. So, Chris, you're on mute.
My apologies, Chair. I tried to raise my hand earlier when the minutes were that appear to have been overlooked. I do have one comment, and that is on page 12, paragraph 16. It was resolved that the complaint progressed to an investigation in accordance with option B and an external investigator be appointed. And the reason it says in the minutes is that the subcommittee considers that further information is required before a decision can be made in this case. I don't believe that that was the case. The reason that we were, I think, unanimous in deciding that it should progress to an investigation was because the substance of the case, as had been exposed to us, warranted it. There was nothing about further information. I stand to be corrected on this one.
Okay, and I'm not in a position to correct you, but Councillor Douglas and Fisher are. David Laverick, unfortunately, has given his apologies. He sent his apologies today, as our other independent person. Councillor Douglas, and then Councillor Fisher.
Yes, yeah, I'm just casting my memory back to that particular subcommittee. We had a fair few at that point in time, if I remember rightly. Yes, yeah, no, I think Councillor Chambers is correct that this particular investigation, it was decided unanimously that an investigation should be carried out because it warranted it. I would agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fisher?
I agree. I think we made a decision that there was a clear case to go to an investigation. I think, if I recall, we did ask for some matters to be clarified, which was maybe where the confusion has come in. But I think, no doubt about it, there was consideration that the merits of the case should lead to an investigation. Okay, thank you, Councillor Fisher. So can we have those amended, whoever's doing that, whether it's Rachel or Democratic Services? Yeah, I got a little nod there, which I'll accept. Thank you for that. Councillor Fisher, your hand is still up, is it? Are you? So that does actually now bring us to the end of this particular meeting. So thank you for those that have been watching. And we are now going to end this particular meeting.